They let humanity leave in defiance. Now the council faces regret. Part 1. The council chamber stretched 300 meters across, its curved walls rising toward a dome that showed the stars beyond. Thousands of seats filled the space, each occupied by a delegate from one of the galaxy's many species. Some had scales, others had fur. Some breathed oxygen, while others required different gases. But they all shared one thing today. They were all watching Ambassador Haywan Park stand alone at the center platform. Park stood straight in her simple gray suit. Her dark hair was pulled back. Her face showed no emotion. She had prepared for this moment for months, knowing what would come. Behind her, displayed on massive screens, were 50 years of human contributions to the Galactic Council. Scientific discoveries, trade agreements, peaceful settlements, cultural exchanges. High Counselor Vren sat in the highest seat. His blue skin caught the light as he leaned forward. His 4 eyes focused on Park with something between amusement and contempt. He had ruled the council for 30 years. He had seen species come and go. He had watched empires rise and fall, and he had never seen humans as anything more than primitive newcomers. Ambassador Park, Vren's voice echoed through the chamber. You request full council membership for humanity. You say your people have earned this right. Please enlighten us. What exactly have humans contributed that we should consider this? Park activated the display. Images showed human scientists working alongside alien researchers, human ships delivering aid to disaster zones, human diplomats negotiating peace between warring species. For 50 years, humanity has served as an associate member, Park said. Her voice was calm and clear. We have contributed to 12 major scientific breakthroughs. We have mediated 43 disputes. We have provided humanitarian aid to over 200 worlds. We have asked for nothing in return except fair treatment and equal representation. A sound rippled through the chamber. It started as a quiet chuckle from one delegate. Then another joined. Soon dozens were laughing. Vren made no effort to stop them. Scientific breakthroughs, Vren said. You copied our technology. You took what we gave you and claimed it as your own. Every advancement you showed came from studying our work. Another delegate stood. This one had 6 limbs and spoke through a translator. Your ships are slow. Your weapons are outdated. Your medicine is centuries behind ours. You call yourselves advanced, but you are children playing with toys we invented. More laughter filled the chamber. Park's jaw tightened, but she did not respond. She had learned long ago that defending humanity to those who had already decided to dismiss them was pointless. Vren continued. Your culture is backwards. You still have conflicts among your own people. You still struggle with basic resource distribution. And you want to sit as equals with species who mastered these problems millennia ago? Park looked around the chamber. She saw the contempt on their faces. She saw delegates who had once worked with human scientists now joining in the mockery. She saw species who had accepted human aid now pretending they owed nothing. She took a breath. Then she did something that made the laughter stop. She smiled. Thank you, High Counselor, Park said. You have made humanity's decision very easy. She touched a control on her wrist. The screens behind her changed. Now they showed something different. Legal documents, withdrawal notices, transfer orders. Effective immediately, humanity withdraws from the Galactic Council, Park announced. We withdraw from all treaties. We withdraw from all joint projects. We withdraw from all shared facilities. Within 30 days, every human citizen, every human ship, and every human installation will leave council space. Silence fell over the chamber. Then Vren began to laugh. It started as a chuckle and grew into genuine amusement. Other delegates joined him. You think you can survive alone? Vren said between laughs. You need us. Your economy depends on council trade. Your technology relies on our knowledge. Your colonies exist because we allow them to. Without the council, humanity will collapse within a decade. Park's smile never wavered. We will see, High Counselor. History will judge who was right. She turned and walked toward the exit. Her footsteps echoed in the massive chamber. Behind her, the laughter continued. Delegates made jokes about how long it would take before humans came crawling back. Some started betting on whether it would be 5 years or 10. Friend's voice followed her. When you return begging for readmission, remember this day. Remember that we offered you the chance to learn humility. Park did not look back. She walked through the doors and they closed behind her with a heavy sound that felt final. In orbit above the Council's capital world, Admiral Tae-Yang Kim stood on the bridge of the carrier Seoul. He was 60 years old with gray hair and steady hands. He had served in the human fleet for 40 years. He had fought in small conflicts. He had protected trade routes. He had always believed that patience and diplomacy would eventually win humanity respect. Now he watched his command display show every human ship, station, and colony in Council space. There were thousands of markers, millions of people, decades of effort and investment. Admiral, his communications officer said, Ambassador Park has transmitted the withdrawal order. It's official. Kim nodded slowly. He had known this day might come. Park had warned him weeks ago that the Council vote would not go well. But knowing something and experiencing it were different things. Send the order to all human vessels and installations, Kim said. Begin evacuation procedures. We have 30 days to get everyone out. The bridge crew worked quickly. Messages went out across the communication network. On 100 worlds, human colonists received the news. On 1,000 stations, human workers began packing. In deep space, human miners and explorers turned their ships toward home. Some protested. They had built lives in Council space. They had businesses and friends. They had invested years into their communities. But the order was clear. Humanity was leaving, and no one would be left behind. Park arrived on the Seoul 12 hours later. She looked tired. The confrontation in the Council chamber had drained her, even though she had expected every insult. Kim met her in his ready room. It went exactly as you predicted, Park said, sitting down heavily. They think we are nothing. They think we will fail and beg to return. Kim poured her tea from a small pot he kept on his desk. It was a simple gesture, but it felt important. A reminder of humanity's traditions and culture, things the Council had dismissed as primitive. Let them think that, Kim said. We will prove them wrong, not with words but with actions, not by seeking their approval, but by succeeding without it. Park held the warm cup in her hands. The Outer Rim territories are ready. We have identified systems far from Council space. Good worlds. Rich resources. We can build something new there. Something that belongs only to us. Then that is what we will do, Kim said. He looked out the viewport at the stars beyond. The Council believes we need them. They will learn that they are wrong. The evacuation took exactly 28 days. Human efficiency surprised even themselves. Ships arrived and departed in perfect coordination. Stations were dismantled and transported. Colonies packed up decades of development. Not a single person or piece of equipment was left behind. The Council watched it happen. Some delegates were surprised by how organized the humans were. Others dismissed it as desperation. Vren ordered monitoring stations to track where the human fleet was going, expecting to receive surrender requests within months. On the final day, Kim stood on the bridge of the Seoul as the last human ship departed Council space. Behind them, the lights of the Council worlds faded into the distance. Ahead, the Outer Rim waited. Unknown, dangerous, free. Park stood beside him. She had not slept much in 4 weeks, but her eyes were bright with determination. We will never beg, she said quietly. It was not a question. It was a promise. Kim nodded. Never. From this day forward, humanity stands alone, and we will stand tall. The human fleet jumped to faster than light speed, leaving Council space forever. Behind them, the galaxy's most powerful organization continued with its business, confident that the primitive humans would soon realize their mistake. They were wrong. But it would take 30 years for them to understand just how wrong they were. 20 years had passed since the Exodus. In that time, the galaxy had changed in ways the Council never expected. But those changes happened far from their view, in the Outer Rim where humanity had built its new home. Dr. Yuna Choi stood in the main laboratory of Research Station Aurora. The facility orbited a blue gas giant in the Taejin system, one of 12 major human colonies established after leaving Council space. Through the large windows, she could see 3 other stations in various orbits. Construction ships moved between them like busy insects. Yuna was 45 years old now. She had been fresh out of university when humanity left the Council. Back then, she had been angry at the way her teachers were treated, the way human research was dismissed. That anger had become fuel. For 20 years, she had worked with thousands of other scientists to prove that humans did not need to copy alien technology. They could create their own. Dr. Choi, her assistant, called from across the lab. The test results are complete. You need to see this. Yuna walked to the main display. Numbers and graphs filled the screen. She read them carefully, then read them again. A smile spread across her face. It works, she said quietly. The new FTL drive actually works, her assistant grinned. Better than works. It's 40% faster than Council drives and uses half the energy. We just made their entire fleet obsolete. Yuna sent the data to Admiral Kim immediately. Within an hour, she received a response. The Admiral wanted to see her in person. He was coming to Aurora Station with someone she needed to meet. 2 days later, the carrier Sol arrived at the station. It was much larger than Yuna remembered from 20 years ago. The ship had been upgraded multiple times, incorporating new human technologies. But it was still recognizable as the flagship that had led humanity to freedom. Admiral Kim looked older now. His hair was completely white, but his eyes were sharp and his movements were steady. He brought someone with him, a young officer in a crisp uniform. The name tag read Captain Jiwoo Lee Lee was 28 years old. She had been 8 when humanity left the Council. She barely remembered Council space. She had grown up in the Outer Rim, attended human schools, trained in human military academies. To her, the Council was just history, a mistake that humanity had moved past. Dr. Choi, Kim said, I want you to meet Captain Lee. She will command the first ship equipped with your new drive system. Lee extended her hand. Her grip was firm. I have read all your papers, Doctor. Your work on energy shielding is brilliant. The new armor plating you developed has made our ships nearly indestructible. Nearly is not good enough, Yuna said, but we are working on it. Kim led them to the observation deck. From there, they could see the construction yards. Dozens of ships were being built, not the simple vessels humanity had used in Council space. These were different, sleeker, more powerful, built from the ground up using human innovation. The Defiance, Kim said, pointing to the largest ship in the yard. She will be ready in 6 months. The first of a new class of warships, faster than anything the Council has. Better armed, better defended. Lee's eyes were bright as she looked at the ship. And I get to command her. You do, Kim confirmed. You represent the new generation. You never knew the humiliation we faced. You never had to bow to anyone. That is how it should be. Yuna watched the young captain. There was confidence in her posture, not arrogance but certainty. Lee knew what humanity was capable of because she had grown up seeing it. She had no doubt that humans could compete with any species in the galaxy. What about the Council? Lee asked. Do we have any contact with them? Kim shook his head. They send messages occasionally. Requests for trade discussions. Invitations to diplomatic events. We ignore them all. Do they know how far we have advanced? Yuna asked. They have intelligence reports, Kim said, but they dismiss them. They still think of us as the primitive species they knew 20 years ago. They cannot imagine that we have surpassed them. Lee smiled. Good. Let them underestimate us. Over the next 6 months, Yuna spent most of her time on the Defiance. She personally oversaw the installation of every new system, the FTL drive, the energy shields, the weapons arrays, the AI networks that could process tactical data faster than any Council computer. Lee was there every day too. She learned every system. She practiced every maneuver. By the time the ship was ready for its first flight, she knew it as well as Yuna did. The test flight was spectacular. The Defiance moved through space with grace that made older ships look clumsy. Its shields absorbed energy weapons without strain. Its own weapons could punch through the strongest armor the Council had ever built. Admiral Kim watched from the Sol. He sent Lee a simple message. Well done, Captain. Humanity is proud. Meanwhile, in Council space, life continued as it always had. The Council met in their grand chamber. They debated trade policies and resource allocation. They settled minor disputes between member species. They congratulated themselves on maintaining peace and prosperity. High Counselor Vren still ruled. He was older now, his blue skin darker with age, but his power had not diminished. He had successfully navigated 20 years of politics. He had dealt with 3 economic crises and 2 minor wars. He was considered the greatest council leader in recent history. When intelligence reports arrived about human advancement, Vren read them with amusement. The reports claimed humans had developed new technologies, that their fleet was growing, that their colonies were thriving. Vren dismissed it all as exaggeration. Humans were copying council technology and claiming it as their own, just as they always had. There was no way a species that primitive could innovate on their own. They have not even requested to rejoin the council, Vren told his advisors. They are too proud to admit they need us. Eventually, desperation will force them to return, and when they do, we will accept them back. But only as associate members. They will never again have the chance at full membership, his advisors agreed. None of them had actually visited human space. None of them had seen the 12 thriving colonies. None of them had witnessed the technological marvels humans were creating. They relied on old assumptions and comfortable prejudices. Back in the Outer Rim, Ambassador Park was now the primary civilian leader of human space. She had aged gracefully. Her hair was streaked with gray, but her mind was as sharp as ever. She oversaw the governing council that managed human affairs. Every few months, another message arrived from the Galactic Council. Always polite, always offering opportunities for renewed contact, always assuming humanity would be grateful for the chance. Park deleted each one without reading beyond the first line. She had made a promise 20 years ago. Humanity would never beg, and she intended to keep that promise. She stood in her office on New Sol, the capital colony of human space. Through the window, she could see the sprawling city below. Millions of people going about their lives, building, creating, growing. Her assistant entered. Ambassador, another council message has arrived. They are requesting a trade conference. Park touched a button on her desk. The message appeared on her screen. She read the first paragraph. It was written in the same condescending tone the council always used. As if they were doing humanity a favor by reaching out, she deleted it. Send a standard response, Park said. Humanity is not interested in council affairs at this time. Her assistant nodded and left. Park returned to her real work. Planning the expansion of the 13th colony. Reviewing proposals for new research projects. Approving funding for education programs. The council had wanted humanity to beg, to admit they needed alien guidance, to accept a lesser role in galactic affairs. Instead, humanity had built something better, something that belonged entirely to them, and they had done it by being told they could not. 20 years of isolation had not weakened humanity. It had strengthened them. It had forced them to be creative, to be self-reliant, to prove their worth not through words but through achievements. The human fleet now numbered 300 warships and over 1,000 support vessels. Human technology had advanced in directions the Council never explored. Human society had developed its own culture, free from alien influence, and in a few years, the Council would learn what a terrible mistake they had made. But for now, humanity was content to be left alone, building their future, living their lives. Growing stronger with each passing day, the Council had laughed when humans left. Soon the humans would be the ones smiling. The attack came without warning. One moment the Torvus system was peaceful. The next it was burning. Commander Thex watched the tactical display from his flagship. Ships were disappearing from the screen faster than he could count. Council forces were scattered across 3 planets. None of them had expected this. The enemy was unlike anything the Council had encountered before. They called themselves the Hive. They did not negotiate. They did not communicate. They simply consumed. Their ships were biological, living things grown rather than built. They moved in swarms of thousands. Each one was small, barely the size of a fighter, but they attacked in coordinated waves that overwhelmed defenses through pure numbers. Thex had been a military commander for 30 years. He had fought in every major conflict the Council faced. He had trained on every tactic in their databases. None of it prepared him for this. All ships concentrate fire on Grid 7, he ordered. Target the largest grouping. His fleet obeyed. Energy weapons lit up the darkness of space. Dozens of hive ships exploded. But for every one destroyed, 2 more appeared. They seemed endless, worse, they adapted. After the first wave of attacks, the hive ships began showing resistance to the Council's energy weapons. Their biological armor evolved in real time. What worked 5 minutes ago stopped working now. "Sir, we are losing the Triumph," his tactical officer reported. "Hive ships have breached her hull. Life support is failing." Thex made the hardest decision of his career. "Order the Triumph to evacuate." All remaining ships fall back to Rally Point Beta. It was a retreat. The first major retreat Council forces had made in 50 years. But there was no choice. Staying meant complete destruction. The fleet limped away from the Torva system. Behind them, 3 planets fell to the hive. Billions of people became food for the biological swarm. News of the attack spread through Council space like fire. Panic followed. The Council military was supposed to be invincible. It protected hundreds of worlds. Thousands of species relied on it for security. Now that security was broken. Over the next 2 weeks, the hive took 4 more systems. Each battle followed the same pattern. Council forces fought bravely but could not adapt fast enough. The enemy learned from every engagement. They evolved faster than the Council could respond. High Counselor Vren called an emergency session. The great chamber that had once echoed with laughter at humanity's departure now filled with fear. "We face an existential threat," Vren announced. His voice was steady, but everyone could hear the strain beneath it. "The hive has destroyed 7 systems. They show no signs of stopping. Our conventional weapons are proving insufficient." A delegate from the Vornak species stood. "What about our research divisions? Can they develop countermeasures?" "They are trying," Vren said. "But the hive adapts faster than we can innovate. Every weapon we develop becomes useless within days." "Then what do you propose?" another delegate asked. Vren hesitated. What he was about to say would change everything. "We need help from outside our normal resources. We need fresh perspectives. New technologies we have not considered." Silence fell over the chamber. Then someone said the word everyone was thinking, but no one wanted to say. "Humanity." The reaction was immediate. Dozens of delegates began talking at once. Some were outraged at the suggestion. Others were dismissive. A few looked thoughtful. Vren raised his hand for silence. "I know what we all think of the humans. I remember their departure 30 years ago. I remember their arrogance. But we must face reality. Our intelligence reports suggest they have developed technologies we do not fully understand." "Those reports are exaggerated," a delegate protested. "Humans are primitive. They were primitive 30 years ago and they are primitive now. What could they possibly offer that we cannot do ourselves?" "Perhaps nothing," Vren admitted. "But we are losing this war. If there is even a small chance that humanity has something useful, we must explore it." Commander Thex was called to testify. He stood before the Council, his uniform still showing damage from the last battle. "Commander, what is your military assessment?" Vren asked. Thex chose his words carefully. "We cannot defeat the hive with current tactics. They adapt too quickly. We need weapons and strategies they have not encountered before. If humanity has truly developed independently, their technology might be different enough to work where ours fails." "You think humans can help us?" a delegate asked skeptically. "I think we cannot afford pride when survival is at stake," Thex replied. The debate lasted for hours. Finally, a vote was called. By a narrow margin, the Council agreed to contact humanity. But there was one problem. No one wanted to be the one to ask. Ambassador Krell was chosen. He had been a junior diplomat 30 years ago. He remembered the day humanity left. He had been one of those laughing at them. Now he had to ask them for help. Krell's ship approached the boundary of human space 3 days later. He sent a formal request for entry and permission to speak with human leadership. He expected delays. He expected to be made to wait as punishment for past insults. Instead, he received an immediate response. A set of coordinates, permission to enter, and a warning. Ambassador Krell, you are granted permission to approach the designated coordinates. Be advised that human space is monitored and defended. Any deviation from the specified course will be considered hostile. The voice was calm and professional. Not angry, not mocking, just matter of fact. Somehow that made Krell more nervous. He followed the coordinates to a meeting point in neutral space. His sensors detected a ship waiting there, a single vessel. When Krell's ship got close enough for visual contact, he understood why he had only seen one ship on sensors. He did not need to see more. One was enough to make his blood run cold. The human ship was enormous. Twice the size of his diplomatic vessel. 3 times the size of Council military cruisers. Its hull was smooth and dark, seeming to absorb light rather than reflect it. Weapon ports lined its surface in numbers that made Krell's tactical officer gasp. This was not a ship built by a primitive species. This was a warship that made Council military vessels look like antiques. A communication came through. Ambassador Krell, this is Captain Jiwoo Lee of the human warship Defiance. Welcome to human space. Please state the purpose of your visit. Krell swallowed his pride. He had no choice. Captain Lee, I come on behalf of the Galactic Council. We request a meeting with human leadership to discuss a matter of mutual concern. There was a pause. Then Lee responded, Mutual concern? That is an interesting phrase, Ambassador. The Council has shown no interest in humanity for 30 years. Now you claim we share concerns. What has changed? Krell knew there was no point in being diplomatic. The humans would learn the truth soon enough. The Council is under attack by a species we cannot defeat. We are losing systems, losing ships, losing lives. We need help. Another pause. Longer this time. When Lee spoke again, her voice was carefully neutral. I see. The mighty Galactic Council needs help from the primitive humans. How things change. Very well, Ambassador. You will be escorted to meet with Admiral Kim and Ambassador Park. Follow our lead and do not deviate. 2 more ships appeared on Krell's sensors. They had been there all along, invisible until they chose to reveal themselves. Stealth technology that the Council had never mastered. Krell's ship followed the human escorts deeper into their territory. With each passing hour, he saw more evidence of human advancement. Stations that rivaled anything in Council space. Ships that made his own look obsolete. Colonies that thrived with millions of inhabitants. The intelligence reports had not been exaggerated. If anything, they had understated the truth. Humanity had not just survived the last 30 years. They had thrived. They had evolved. And now the Council, which had once dismissed them as children playing with toys, had to beg them for help. Krell dreaded the meeting ahead. He knew exactly how humiliating it would be. He deserved every bit of that humiliation. The question was whether humanity would help despite the past, or whether they would leave the Council to face destruction alone. The meeting room was simple. No grand decorations. No impressive displays of wealth. Just a table, chairs, and a view of the stars beyond. Ambassador Krell found it unsettling. The Council always met in chambers designed to impress and intimidate. This room seemed designed for work, not show. Admiral Kim entered first. He was 90 years old now, but age treatments kept him strong. His white hair and weathered face told of decades spent building humanity's future. His eyes were sharp and measured Krell carefully. Ambassador Park followed. She moved with quiet dignity. Her expression gave nothing away. She had been the one to announce humanity's departure 30 years ago. The one who had walked out of the Council chamber while they laughed. Captain Lee came last. She stood by the door, her presence a silent reminder of the military power humanity now possessed. Ambassador Krell, Park said, gesturing to a chair. Please sit. You have come a long way. Krell sat. His hands were sweating. He had rehearsed this meeting 100 times during the journey. Now all his prepared words seemed hollow. Thank you for agreeing to meet with me, he began. I know that relations between humanity and the Council have been strained. Park's expression did not change, but something flickered in her eyes. Strained. That is a diplomatic way to describe it. Krell swallowed. I was there 30 years ago. I remember the session where you requested full membership. I remember how we responded. I laughed along with the others. I am ashamed of that now. Are you? Kim asked. His voice was not angry, just curious. Are you ashamed because it was wrong, or because you now need our help? It was a fair question. Krell wished he had a better answer. Perhaps both, he admitted. I cannot change the past. I can only acknowledge that we were wrong about humanity. Park leaned forward slightly. Tell us about the hive. Krell pulled up a data display. Images showed the biological ships. Battle reports detailed the losses. Casualty numbers climbed into the billions. They appeared 6 weeks ago, Krell explained. We have lost 11 systems. Over 300 ships. Every engagement ends in retreat or destruction. They adapt to our weapons faster than we can develop new ones. Kim studied the data carefully. Biological ships, interesting. They grow their technology instead of building it. That explains the rapid adaptation. Our scientists believe the hive is a collective intelligence, Krell continued. Each ship is part of a larger mind. They learn from every encounter and share that knowledge instantly. Then conventional tactics will not work, Lee observed from her position by the door. You cannot surprise an enemy that shares a single consciousness. Krell nodded. Exactly. Which is why the Council has decided to request assistance from humanity. The word hung in the air. Request, not demand. Not expect, request. Park stood and walked to the window. She looked out at the stars for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was soft but clear. 30 years ago, we stood in your council chamber. We had worked beside you for 50 years. We had contributed to your science. We had helped your people. And when we asked for equal treatment, you laughed at us. Krell felt his face burn with shame. Park continued. You told us we were primitive, that we had nothing to offer, that we would fail without the Council's guidance. You said we would come begging to return. I remember, Krell whispered. Park turned to face him. We left that day making one promise. We would never beg. We would stand on our own. We would prove our worth not through words but through actions. She walked back to the table and sat down. Now you come to us, the mighty council that dismissed us, the organization that thought we could not survive alone. And you ask for our help. Krell could barely meet her eyes. I know we have no right to ask. But billions of lives are at stake. Whatever your feelings about the council, the people on those worlds did not vote to mock humanity. They are innocent, Kim spoke. Show us your tactical data. Everything you have on the hive's capabilities and movements. Krell transferred the files. The humans studied them in silence. Minutes passed. Lee moved to look over Kim's shoulder. Park accessed her own display and began cross-referencing. Finally, Kim looked up. We can help. Our weapons are different from yours. Based on principles the hive will not have encountered, our AI systems can adapt and innovate in real time. We have ships that can match their speed and numbers. Hope flickered in Krell's chest. Then you will help us? We have not decided, Park said firmly. You need to understand something, Ambassador. We do not make decisions based on emotion. We left the Council because it was the right choice for humanity. If we help now, it will be because it serves our interests. What interests? Krell asked. The hive will not stop at Council space, Kim explained. If they consume your territory, they will grow stronger. Eventually, they will reach human space. It is better to stop them now than wait for them to come to us. Lee added. Also, this is a chance to test our military capabilities in real combat. We have built an impressive fleet, but we have not faced a true threat. The hive will show us what works and what needs improvement. Their practical approach should have been comforting. Instead, Krell found it unsettling. They were not helping out of friendship or obligation. They were helping because it made strategic sense. However, Park said, if humanity is to commit resources and risk lives to defend Council space, we require certain assurances. Here it comes, Krell thought. The price. What do you require? Park's voice was cold and professional. First, the Council must issue a formal public apology for the treatment humanity received. Not a private statement. A public declaration broadcast across all Council worlds. Krell winced but nodded. I will recommend it. Second, Park continued, humanity's sovereignty must be officially recognized. No more associate membership. No more requests for us to rejoin. We are an independent nation, equal to the Council itself. Agreed, Krell said quickly. Third, after the hive is defeated, humanity will have full access to all Council scientific databases, every research paper, every technological breakthrough, everything you kept from us because we were not full members. Krell hesitated. That would be harder to sell to the Council, but what choice did they have? I will present your terms. Kim stood and offered his hand. Then we have the basis for an agreement. Deliver the apology in recognition. Once we receive confirmation, we will deploy our fleet. Krell shook his hand. The Admiral's grip was strong. Thank you. You are saving billions of lives. We are protecting our own interests, Kim corrected. But yes, Council lives will be saved as a result. Remember that when your people wonder why we helped. Captain Lee escorted Krell back to his ship. As they walked through the human station, Krell noticed the efficiency. The cleanliness, the advanced technology integrated seamlessly into daily life. "You have built something impressive here," he said. Lee glanced at him. "We built what we needed to survive. The council thought we would fail. They thought we needed them. They were wrong on both counts." "I can see that now," Krell admitted. "I wish we had seen it 30 years ago." "The past cannot be changed," Lee said. "Only learned from. Perhaps the council will remember this lesson." Back in council space, Krell presented the human terms to High Counselor Vren. The chamber erupted in debate. Many delegates were outraged at the demands. How dare the humans require an apology? How dare they demand access to council knowledge? But Commander Thex's latest report silenced the protests. 3 more systems had fallen. The hive was accelerating. At the current rate, they would reach core council worlds within months. The vote was called. It was not unanimous. Many delegates voted against accepting human terms. But the majority understood reality. Pride was worth nothing if everyone was dead. Vren stood before the cameras. The broadcast went to every council world. Billions watched as the most powerful leader in the galaxy spoke. 30 years ago, the Galactic Council made a grave mistake. Vren began. His voice was heavy with the weight of the words. "We dismissed humanity. We mocked their contributions. We refused to recognize their worth. We were wrong. Humanity has proven themselves not through our standards but through their own achievements. They have built a thriving civilization. They have developed impressive technologies. They have succeeded in ways we did not think possible. On behalf of the Galactic Council, I formally apologize to humanity for our treatment of them. We recognize them as a sovereign nation, equal in status to the Council itself, and we humbly request their assistance in our time of need." The broadcast ended. Across council space, reactions varied. Some felt the apology was long overdue. Others resented being forced to acknowledge human superiority. But everyone agreed on one thing: they needed humanity to survive. In human space, Admiral Kim received confirmation of the apology. He sent a single message to all human fleet commanders: "Prepare for deployment. We go to war." The human fleet arrived at the Delnar system like a storm. 300 warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. They moved with a precision that made council observers catch their breath. Commander Thex watched from his flagship. He had seen many fleets in his career. None compared to this. The human ships were sleek and dark. They did not waste energy on unnecessary lights or displays. They looked like predators built for one purpose. The Defiance led the formation. Captain Lee stood on her bridge, studying tactical displays that showed every detail of the battlefield. The Hive had already taken 2 planets in this system. Their biological ships swarmed around the 3rd, preparing to consume another 1 billion lives. "All ships, this is Admiral Kim." The communication came through on an open channel. Every human ship heard it. Every council ship monitoring the engagement heard it. "We have studied the enemy. We understand their tactics. We know their weaknesses. Today we show them that humanity cannot be conquered." Lee smiled. She had trained for this moment since joining the fleet. She had studied the Hive data for weeks. She knew exactly what to do. Defiance to all vessels. Execute attack pattern Delta. Weapons free. The human fleet split into smaller groups. Each one moved toward different sections of the Hive swarm. It looked chaotic to council observers. But there was method in the madness. The Hive responded as expected. Thousands of biological ships turned to meet the threat. They had adapted to council energy weapons. They had evolved armor that resisted conventional attacks. They were confident. Then the human weapons fired. What came from the human ships was not energy beams like the council used. It was something different. Kinetic projectiles fired at tremendous speed. Explosive warheads designed specifically to penetrate organic material. Targeted radiation that disrupted biological functions. The Hive ships that had resisted council weapons for weeks began to die. Dozens at first, then hundreds. The human weapons were completely different from anything the Hive had encountered. Their adaptations were useless, but the Hive was not helpless. They began to adapt. Some ships started developing resistance to the kinetic weapons. Others changed their biology to counter the radiation. That was when the human AI systems activated. Dr. Yuna Choi watched from the Seoul Science Station. Her AI systems monitored the Hive's adaptations in real time. As the biological ships changed, The AI systems analyzed the changes and developed countermeasures. New weapon frequencies, different projectile compositions, altered radiation patterns. The hive adapted fast, but the human AI adapted faster. This is what they could not do, Una said to herself. This is what makes us different. The council forces had tried to overwhelm the hive with power. They failed because the hive could adapt to any single approach. But humanity did not use a single approach. They used hundreds. And every time the hive adapted to one, the humans switched to another. Commander Thex watched in amazement as the human fleet tore through the hive swarm. He had fought these creatures for weeks. He had lost hundreds of ships. And now he was watching a species he once dismissed as primitive destroy them with ease. Sir, his tactical officer said, the humans are requesting we focus fire on Grid 12. They are driving the hive into a trap. Thex gave the order. His remaining ships moved to support the human strategy. It felt strange taking orders from humans, but he could not argue with results. The trap closed. Human ships herded the hive into a confined space. Then they unleashed a weapon the Council had never seen. A gravity well generator that collapsed space itself. Thousands of hive ships were crushed in an instant. The remaining hive forces broke. They scattered, trying to escape. But the human ships were faster. One by one, they hunted down the biological vessels. Within 6 hours, the Delnar system was clear. It was the first major victory against the hive, and it came at almost no cost. The human fleet had lost 3 ships. Only 3. The Council had lost hundreds in every previous engagement. Captain Lee stood on her bridge as the last hive ship was destroyed. Her crew cheered. She allowed herself a small smile. Then she opened a channel to the fleet. Good work, everyone. But this is just the beginning. The hive still holds 14 systems. We have a lot of work ahead. Over the next 3 weeks, the human fleet liberated system after system. Each battle followed a similar pattern. The humans would arrive with overwhelming force and tactical superiority. They would adapt faster than the hive could respond. They would win decisively. Council forces followed behind, securing territory and rescuing survivors. They watched the humans fight. They learned from human tactics, and they began to understand just how far behind they had fallen. The final battle came at the hive's main staging area. A massive cluster of biological ships orbited a dead world. This was where they bred new vessels, where they processed the resources from conquered systems. Admiral Kim brought the entire human fleet, 300 warships against what remained of the hive. It was the largest space battle in galactic history. The fight lasted 12 hours. The hive threw everything they had at the human fleet. They adapted. They evolved. They fought with the desperation of a species facing extinction. It was not enough. Human weapons were too diverse. Human tactics were too flexible. Human technology was too advanced. The hive had evolved to fight the Council's predictable strategies. They had no answer for humanity's constant innovation. When the last hive ship was destroyed, a strange silence fell over the battlefield. Council forces watching from a distance could hardly believe it. The threat that had seemed unstoppable just weeks ago was gone. Humanity had saved them. High Counselor Vren requested a meeting with Admiral Kim. They met on neutral ground, a space station between Council and human territory. Vren looked older than his years. The stress of the war had aged him. He approached Kim with none of his former arrogance. Admiral Kim, Vren said, on behalf of the Galactic Council, I thank you. You saved billions of lives. You defeated an enemy we could not, Kim nodded. We did what was necessary. You did more than that, Vren said. You showed us how wrong we were about humanity. You are not primitive. You never were. We were blind and arrogant. Yes, you were, Kim agreed. There was no anger in his voice, just statement of fact. Vren took a breath. The Council would like to offer humanity full membership, not as associates, as equals. With full voting rights and representation, we would be honored to have you. Kim was quiet for a moment. Then he shook his head. No, he said simply. Vren looked surprised. But surely now that you have proven yourselves, we have nothing to prove, Kim interrupted gently. That is the point you still do not understand. We do not need Council membership to validate our existence. We left 30 years ago to build something of our own. We succeeded. We are content with that. Ambassador Park joined them. She had been listening to the conversation. The council dismissed us because we did not meet your standards, Park said. But we never needed to meet your standards. We needed to meet our own. And we have. Vren looked between them. Then what do you want? To be left alone, Kim said. We will maintain diplomatic relations. We will trade with council species who wish to trade with us, but we will not rejoin an organization that once treated us with such contempt. We learned something important when you cast us out, Park added. We learned that we are strongest when we rely on ourselves, when we innovate instead of imitate, when we build our own future instead of asking permission to participate in yours. Vren nodded slowly. He understood. The greatest insult was not refusing membership. It was showing that membership was never needed in the first place. I understand, Vren said, and I respect your decision. The Council will honor humanity's sovereignty. We will not make the mistake of underestimating you again. The meeting ended cordially. Humanity received access to Council databases as promised. Trade agreements were established. Diplomatic channels remained open, but humanity remained independent. They returned to their territory in the Outer Rim. They continued building their civilization on their own terms. Captain Lee was promoted to Admiral. She took command of humanity's growing fleet. Dr. Choi continued developing new technologies. Ambassador Park guided human diplomacy with the wisdom of experience, and Admiral Kim, now 93 years old, retired. He spent his final years writing about the human experience, about what it meant to be dismissed and cast out, about how adversity could forge strength. His most famous passage became required reading in every human school. They laughed when we left. They said we would fail. They believed we needed them to survive. They were wrong about everything. We did not need their approval. We needed their rejection. It forced us to become what we truly were capable of being. It taught us that the only validation that matters is the validation we give ourselves. The Council regrets pushing us away, but we do not regret leaving, because in leaving we found ourselves, and we discovered that humanity needs no one's permission to be great. Years passed. The galaxy changed. New species joined the Council. Old empires faded, but one constant remained. In the Outer Rim, humanity thrived. Their territory expanded. Their technology advanced. Their culture flourished. They traded with those who respected them. They ignored those who did not.